Princess Zarathul stood in the great crystal hall of her father's palace. The walls sparkled like diamonds, throwing rainbow colors across the smooth floor. She wore her finest purple robes, the ones that showed her royal status. But today, the beautiful clothes felt heavy on her shoulders. Her father, Emperor Kethmoran, sat on his throne made of living crystal. His blue skin looked pale and his forearms moved nervously. Dark circles hung under his large black eyes. The war had aged him terribly in the past few years. "My daughter," he said in their musical language, "today we speak of peace." Zarathul felt her stomach twist. She knew what was coming. For months the court advisors had whispered about marriage alliances. The war with the humans had gone on for 100 years. Both sides were tired of fighting. Both sides had lost too much. "The humans want to make peace," the emperor continued, "but they demand a promise. A bond between our peoples, father," Zarathul said softly. She could feel his emotions through her gift. All her people could sense feelings, but hers was stronger than most. Right now her father felt desperate and sad. "What kind of bond?" "Marriage," he said. The word fell like a stone in the quiet hall. "You will marry their peace leader, Admiral Marcus Chen." Zarathul's gift suddenly screamed a warning. Even hearing the name made her skin crawl. She had never met this human, but something about him felt wrong. "Very wrong, let me show you," her father said. He touched a crystal on his throne. A blue light filled the air above them. Slowly, the image of a human man appeared. The moment Zarathul saw Admiral Chen, she gasped. Her body shook and she took a step back. The human looked normal enough. He had dark hair, brown eyes, and wore a simple military uniform. He was not ugly or scary to look at. But her gift told her a different story. Where other people had warm, bright emotions that she could sense, this human had nothing. It was like looking into a deep, dark hole, but worse than the emptiness was what surrounded it. She felt rage so cold and controlled that it made her blood freeze. This was not just anger. This was something far more dangerous. "Not him, father," she cried. "I'm afraid of that human." Emperor Kethmoran's eyes grew wide. "Zarathul, you shame our family. This human comes in peace. He offers to end the war." "You don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "My gift shows me his mind. There is something terrible there. He is not what he appears to be." "Your gift shows you fear and prejudice," her father said firmly. "Nothing more. We have been at war too long. It has made us see enemies where there are none." But Zarathul knew her gift had never lied to her. Among her people, emotions left marks on warriors. They called it the battle echo. Soldiers who had fought and killed carried these marks like scars. She could see them clearly. Most warriors had small marks, some pain and sadness mixed with duty. This human's echo was massive. It was like looking at the heart of a dying star, all that rage compressed into something small and deadly. Whatever he had done, whatever he had seen, it had changed him into something that was barely human anymore. "Father, please listen." She tried again. "I can sense the battle echo on him. It's stronger than anything I've ever felt. Stronger than our greatest war leaders. Enough!" The emperor stood up from his throne. All four of his arms moved as he spoke. "The human fleet waits at our border. They could attack at any moment. This marriage is our only hope for peace. You will do your duty." Zarathul felt tears run down her cheeks. She was not crying from fear for herself. She was afraid for her people. This human, this Admiral Chen, he was planning something. Her gift was never wrong about these things. "When?" she asked quietly. "The humans arrive in 7 days," her father said. His voice was gentler now. "The ceremony will happen in 14 days. You will have time to prepare." "May I speak with our military leaders?" she asked. "I want to know more about this human." Her father nodded. "Yes, but remember, you must not insult him. Our survival depends on this peace." Zarathul bowed and left the crystal hall. Her mind raced as she walked through the palace corridors. Other Veltharians moved past her, their emotions bright and colorful to her gift. They felt hope about the peace talks. They believed the war would finally end. If only they could see what she had seen in that human's mind. She found General Morthak in the war room. He was old, with scars across his blue skin. Maps and battle reports covered the walls around him. When he saw her, he stood and bowed. "Princess," he said, "I heard about the marriage. You serve our people well." "Tell me about Admiral Chen," she said. "What do you know of him?" The general's expression changed. His bright emotions suddenly became dark and worried. "Why do you ask?" "I saw his image today. There's something wrong with him. Something dangerous. General Morthak was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to a wall covered with reports. He pulled out a thick file and handed it to her. "Read this," he said. "But prepare yourself. This human is not like the others we have fought." Zarathul opened the file. The first page showed Admiral Chen's history. He had not always been a soldier. Before the war, he was a scientist who studied alien life. He had a wife and 2 children. He worked on a research station that was studying peaceful contact between species. Then she read about the attack. Valtharian raiders had destroyed his station. They thought it was a military base. Chen's family died in the attack. The peaceful scientist disappeared that day. In his place came something new. He trained himself to fight, General Morthak said quietly, but not like a normal soldier. He studied our minds, our culture, our fears. He learned to use our own nature against us. The reports told a terrifying story. Chen had designed battle plans that used human unpredictability as a weapon. He understood that humans could think in ways that confused other species. He made this confusion into an art form. The broken chain attack, the general continued. That was his plan. We lost 12 star systems in one day, not because we were weak, but because we could not understand how human minds work. Zarathul read more. Other alien species had warned her people about Chen. The bird-like Kethtar called him the Deathbringer. The plant-based Zolnari would not even speak his name out loud. "Why does he want peace now?" she asked. "We don't know," the general admitted. "Our spies say the human government wants to end the war. But Chen specifically asked for you as his bride. He knows about your gift." This news hit her like ice water. Chen knew about her empathic abilities. He had planned this. But why would he want to marry someone who could see through his lies? As she left the war room, Zarathul felt the weight of understanding. In 7 days, the most dangerous human in the galaxy would arrive at their world. And in 14 days, she would be bound to him forever. Her gift whispered warnings she could not ignore. This was not about peace. This was about something much worse. Admiral Chen was coming, and her people had no idea what they were truly inviting into their home. Zarathul spent the next 3 days reading every report about Admiral Marcus Chen. Each page made her more afraid. The human who would become her husband was not just a warrior. He was something far worse. She learned that Chen had been a simple man before the war. He studied plants and animals on distant worlds. His reports showed a gentle person who loved learning about new life forms. He wrote about wanting to build bridges between different species. His wife Sarah was a teacher. His children, Emma and David, were just babies when they died. The attack on Research Station Omega-7 had been a mistake. Valtharian raiders thought it was a secret military base. They destroyed it without checking first. 47 humans died, including Chen's entire family. The raiders realized their error too late. But this mistake created something terrible. Within 1 month of his family's death, Chen had joined the human military. But he did not become a normal soldier. He studied everything about the Valtharians. He learned their language, their culture, their way of thinking. He spent years preparing for revenge. The reports showed how Chen had changed human military thinking. Before him, humans fought like humans. They used their technology and numbers to win battles. Chen taught them to fight like thinkers. "Humans are chaos," he had written in his military papers. "Other species try to make sense of us. We must use their need for order against them." General Morthak brought her more files from other worlds. The Kethtar had faced Chen's strategies during the Battle of Crimson Nebula. Their reports were filled with fear. "The human Chen does not fight to win territory," wrote their war leader. "He fights to break minds. He makes us question everything we know about war." The Kethtar were proud warriors with thousands of years of military tradition. They had never lost a battle until they met Chen. He had studied their honor-based fighting style and turned it into a trap. The Kethtar expected noble combat. Chen gave them confusion and terror. During the Battle of Crimson Nebula, Chen had made the Kethtar think humans were retreating. The bird-like aliens followed, expecting easy victory. Instead, they found themselves scattered across 3 star systems, fighting enemies that seemed to appear and disappear like ghosts. When they tried to regroup, Chen attacked their home world. "He knew we would never abandon our nests," the Kethtar report said. "He used our love for our children against us." The Zolnari files were even worse. The plant-based species had tried to make peace with Chen during the middle phase of the war. They sent diplomats to negotiate. Chen had welcomed them warmly and signed peace agreements. Then he used the peace talks to study Zolnari psychology. While his diplomats smiled and shook hands, Chen was learning how plant minds worked. 6 months later, he launched the Withering campaign. The human understood our connection to sunlight, the Zolnari ambassador had written. He attacked our star itself, not to destroy it but to change its light frequency. Our people began to weaken and die. We surrendered in terror. But the most frightening report came from the neutral planet of Haven. This world hosted refugees from all the wars. Different species lived there in peace, protected by ancient treaties. Admiral Chen had visited Haven 3 years ago for a cultural exchange. He spent 2 weeks there, studying how different alien minds worked when they lived together. He was polite and friendly. He played with alien children and shared meals with families. 6 months later, those same refugees began having nightmares. They all dreamed the same dream. Humans coming to their worlds not as conquerors but as friends. In the dreams, humans would learn everything about alien cultures. Then they would use that knowledge to destroy them quietly, from within. The Haven Council had investigated. They found that Chen had used subtle psychological techniques during his visit. He had planted ideas in alien minds, ideas that would grow into fear over time. The human Admiral Chen is not just a military leader, the Haven report concluded. He is a weapon designed to destroy the ability of species to trust each other. We believe this was intentional. Zarathul set down the report with shaking hands. Chen was not just dangerous because he was a good soldier. He was dangerous because he understood minds. He knew how to reach into someone's thoughts and change them. She called for Ambassador Veltar, who had been stationed on human worlds before the war. The old Veltharian was one of the few who had met humans during peaceful times. "Tell me about human nature," she said when he arrived. Veltar's emotions were sad and confused. "Humans are strange, Princess. They are not like us. We feel together, share emotions, understand each other naturally. Humans are alone in their minds. Is that why they're dangerous?" "Partly," he said. "But also it makes them adaptable. When we face a problem, we think about it as a group. Our minds work together. Humans face problems alone, so each one finds different solutions. And Chen?" Veltar was quiet for a long time. "I have studied the reports about him. In my opinion, he represents the most dangerous human trait taken to its extreme." "Which trait?" "Humans never stop growing. When they face something that hurts them, they change themselves to face it better next time. Most humans do this slowly in small ways. Chen did it completely. The man who lost his family is gone. What remains is a tool designed for one purpose." "What purpose?" "To make sure humans never lose anything important again. Even if it means other species must be controlled or destroyed." That night, Zarathul could not sleep. She stood on her balcony looking up at the stars. Somewhere among them, Admiral Chen was traveling toward her world. In 4 days, he would arrive. She tried to imagine meeting him face to face. Would he be cruel? Would he threaten her people openly? Her gift told her something different. Chen would be perfectly polite. He would smile and speak gently. He would follow all the proper customs for the wedding ceremony. And underneath it all, he would be planning something terrible. The worst part was that her people would like him. Chen had studied Veltharian culture. He would know exactly how to behave to make them trust him. Her father would see a human who respected their ways. The people would see someone who wanted peace, only she would see the truth. Only she would feel the dark void where his natural emotions should be. Only she would sense the controlled rage that powered his every action. She thought about running away. She could take a ship and disappear into the outer systems, but that would mean war. Her people would die because of her selfishness. She thought about telling everyone what she sensed about Chen. But who would believe her? The reports she had read were secret military files. The common people knew nothing about Chen's true nature. They only knew that peace was coming. As dawn began to light the crystal towers of the capital city, Zarathul made a decision. She would marry Admiral Chen as planned. But she would not do it blindly. She would study him just as carefully as he had studied her people. She would use her gift to learn everything about his mind, and when the time was right, she would find a way to protect her people from whatever he was planning. The princess returned to her room and began to prepare. If Chen thought he could use her as a tool in his plans, he was about to learn something important about Veltharian nature. They were much stronger than they looked. Admiral Marcus Chen arrived exactly on time. His ship was smaller than expected, carrying only a few hundred humans. Zarathul watched from her tower window as it landed in the royal spaceport. The ship looked peaceful, with no visible weapons, but her gift told her to stay afraid. 3 hours later, she met him for the first time. Chen walked into the crystal meeting hall wearing simple diplomatic robes in Valtharian style. He had learned their customs perfectly. When he saw Emperor Keth Moran, he bowed in exactly the right way, with his hands placed correctly and his head at the proper angle. "Your Majesty," Chen said in perfect Valtharian language, "I am honored to be welcomed to your beautiful world." The Emperor smiled, clearly pleased. But when Chen turned to look at Zarathul, she felt like ice water had been poured down her back. His eyes were kind and warm. His smile seemed genuine. When he bowed to her, it was with perfect respect. But her gift screamed warnings. Behind his pleasant expression was that terrible emptiness surrounded by rage so cold it made her shiver. "Princess Zarathul," he said, "I have heard stories of your wisdom and beauty. The stories do not do you justice." The words were exactly right. The tone was perfect. If she had been any other person, she might have blushed at the compliment. Instead, she had to force herself not to run from the room. "Admiral Chen," she replied carefully, "welcome to Valthara. I hope our world pleases you." "Everything about your world amazes me," he said. "I look forward to learning your ways." Over the next week, Chen attended every formal meeting and ceremony. He learned Valtharian poetry and quoted it perfectly. He tasted their foods and praised each dish. He studied their art and asked intelligent questions about their history. The court advisors whispered that he was the perfect husband for their princess. Even General Morthak admitted that Chen seemed respectful and genuine. But Zarathul saw what others could not. During their private meetings, she watched Chen carefully. His body language was perfect. His words were appropriate, but his mind remained hidden behind walls of controlled thought. "You have a beautiful gift," he told her during their third meeting. They were walking in the palace gardens, surrounded by crystal flowers that sang in the wind. "Your empathic abilities must make you very wise." "You know about my gift?" she asked, though she had expected this. "I have studied your people for many years," Chen said simply. "I find Valtharian culture fascinating. The way you share emotions, understand each other without words. It's remarkable. Does it frighten you, knowing that I can sense your feelings?" Chen smiled, but the expression never reached his eyes. "Should it frighten me? I have nothing to hide from my future wife." But that was a lie. Zarathul could feel the lie even though she could not penetrate his mental shields. Chen was hiding everything important about himself. That night, she decided to take a risk. She used her strongest empathic abilities to probe his mind while he slept. What she found horrified her. Chen was not just hiding his thoughts. He was actively controlling them through meditation techniques he had learned from captured Valtharian prisoners. Every emotion, every reaction, every word he spoke was carefully calculated, but worse than his mental control was what lay beneath it. In the deepest parts of his mind, she found his true plans. Chen had not come to make peace. He had come to study her people from the inside. He wanted to understand how their empathic abilities worked. He wanted to learn how their minds connected to each other, and then he wanted to find ways to use human psychology as a weapon against them. In his hidden thoughts, she saw diagrams of Valtharian brain structures. She saw research notes about empathic vulnerabilities. She saw plans for psychological warfare that would make his previous battles look gentle. But the most terrifying discovery was this. Chen planned to use these weapons not just against the Valtharians, but against every alien species in the galaxy. The next morning, Zarathul confronted him directly. She found him in the library, reading ancient Valtharian texts about mental bonding between married couples. "You're not here for peace," she said quietly. Chen did not look up from his book. "What makes you say that, my dear? I can sense your true intentions. You're studying us, learning our weaknesses." Now Chen did look up. For the first time since his arrival, his mask slipped slightly. The kind expression disappeared, replaced by something cold and calculating. "You've been probing my mind," he said. "It was not a question. You've been shielding your thoughts using techniques you tortured out of our prisoners." Chen closed the book and set it aside. "I prefer to think of it as learning from willing teachers." "There were no willing teachers. You broke their minds to learn those techniques." I did what was necessary, Chen said calmly. Just as you will do what is necessary for your people's survival. My people don't need to survive you. They need to be protected from you. Chen stood up, and for a moment Zarathul felt the full weight of his presence. The emptiness in his mind seemed to grow larger, more threatening. Princess, let me explain something about humans, he said. We don't just adapt to challenges. We evolve because of them. Your people made the mistake of hurting us. Now we have evolved into something that can hurt you back. Is that what you think you are? Evolution? I know what I am. I'm a solution to a problem. The problem is that aliens keep starting wars with humanity. The solution is to make sure humans never lose another war. And after us, what happens when you've beaten the Valtharians? Chen smiled, and this time the expression was genuine. It was also terrifying. Then we move on to the next species, and the next, until every alien civilization understands that humans are not prey. Zarathul felt her blood turn cold. You want to conquer the entire galaxy. I want to protect humanity. If that means controlling other species, then that's what we'll do. If it means eliminating threats before they become dangerous, then that's what we'll do. You're talking about genocide. I'm talking about survival. My family died because we were too trusting, too peaceful. I won't let that happen to other human families. So you'll destroy other families instead? If necessary. Chen picked up the book again. But first I need to understand how your people think. How your empathic bonds work. How to break them if I need to. The wedding ceremony, Zarathul whispered. You want to bond with me to study how our minds connect. Very good. The marriage will give me access to the deepest levels of Valtharian psychology. I'll learn things about your species that no human has ever known. And then you'll use that knowledge to destroy us. Chen looked at her with something that might have been pity. Not destroy, control. A controlled alien species is much more useful than a dead one. Zarathul left the library feeling sick. She had always known Chen was dangerous, but she had not understood the true scope of his plans. He was not just planning to defeat the Valtharians. He was planning to turn them into tools for conquering other species. That evening, she sat in her room and tried to think of solutions. She could refuse the marriage, but that would mean war. She could warn her people, but they would not believe her without proof. She could try to kill Chen, but that would also mean war. Every path led to the destruction of her people. As she stared out at the stars, Zarathul realized something important. Chen had made one mistake in his perfect planning. He assumed she would be helpless once he understood her people's psychology. But Chen did not understand everything about Valtharian minds. He did not know about the deep connections that formed between bonded pairs. He thought he would be studying her. He did not realize that she would also be studying him. If she was going to save her people, she would have to beat Chen at his own game. She would have to learn his weaknesses while he was learning hers. The wedding was in 6 days. That gave her very little time to prepare, but Valtharians had been surviving dangerous situations for thousands of years. They had not done it through superior technology or military. Might they had done it by understanding their enemies better than their enemies understood them. It was time to find out if a Valtharian princess could outthink the most dangerous human in the galaxy. The wedding ceremony began at dawn. Zarathul wore robes of pure white crystal that caught the morning light and threw rainbows across the great hall. Thousands of Valtharians had gathered to witness the historic peace marriage. They sang traditional bonding songs that filled the air with harmony. Admiral Chen stood beside her, wearing robes that matched hers perfectly. To everyone watching, he looked like the ideal husband. He spoke his vows in flawless Valtharian, promising to protect and cherish her people as his own. But Zarathul felt the lie in every word. Through her gift, she sensed his true emotions. Chen felt nothing during the ceremony except cold satisfaction. This was just another military operation to him. When the priest began the final bonding ritual, Zarathul prepared herself for the most dangerous thing she had ever done. The mental connection that would form between them would give Chen access to her deepest thoughts. But it would also give her access to his. The priest placed their hands together and spoke the ancient words. Crystal light flowed between their palms, and suddenly Zarathul felt Chen's mind touch hers. The contact was like grabbing a piece of burning ice. Chen's thoughts were organized like a military database, filed away behind walls of perfect control. But now that they were bonded, she could see past those walls. What she found was worse than she had imagined. Chen's plans did not end with controlling alien species. He had files in his mind labeled Phase 2 and Phase 3. Phase 2 involved using controlled aliens to hunt down free alien civilizations. Phase 3 involved something called species integration. As their minds touched deeper, she saw what species integration meant. Chen wanted to change alien species at the genetic level. He wanted to remove their ability to think independently. He envisioned a galaxy where only humans could make decisions, while all other species served them without question. But the most horrible discovery was in a section of his mind labeled acceptable losses. Chen had calculated exactly how many aliens would need to die to achieve his goals. The number was in the billions. The bonding ceremony ended and they were officially married. The crowd cheered and Chen kissed her cheek gently. To everyone watching, it looked romantic. "Now we truly know each other," he whispered in her ear. But Chen had not noticed something important. While he was examining her thoughts about Valtharian culture and psychology, Zarathul was examining his memories of becoming who he was. She saw his life before the war. Marcus Chen had been a gentle man who loved his family more than anything. He would spend hours playing with his children, reading them stories about friendly aliens and peaceful exploration. When his family died, that gentle man died with them. But something else took his place. Chen had not just become a soldier. He had systematically destroyed every part of himself that could feel compassion for non-humans. In his memories, she watched him train himself to see aliens as problems to be solved, rather than people with feelings. She saw him practice removing empathy from his thoughts until he could watch alien civilians die without any emotional response. But the most shocking discovery was this. Chen did not realize what he had become. In his deepest thoughts, he still believed he was protecting humanity. He still thought of himself as a good person doing necessary work. He could not see that he had turned into exactly the kind of monster that had killed his family. That night, in their wedding chamber, Zarathul decided to take the greatest risk of all. She would show Chen what she had learned about him. "Marcus," she said, using his first name for the first time, "I need to show you something." Chen was sitting by the window reading reports on his portable computer. He looked up with that same controlled smile. "What is it, my dear wife?" "I want to share a memory with you. Through our bond." "Whose memory?" "Yours." Before Chen could react, Zarathul used their mental connection to project one of his own memories back to him. She showed him the day his family died, but not the way he remembered it. She showed it to him through the eyes of the Valtharian raiders. The raiders had been young, barely adults. They had been told that Research Station Omega-7 was a military base preparing weapons to use against Valtharian children. They attacked because they thought they were protecting their own families. When they realized their mistake, when they saw the human children among the dead, they had cried. The leader of the raid had broken down completely. They had tried to rescue survivors, but it was too late. Chen watched this memory with growing horror. That's not... They were killers. Monsters. They were frightened children making a terrible mistake, Zarathul said gently, just like the human pilots who bombed the Valtharian nursery world last year. That was different. That was a military target. The pilots thought so, just like the raiders thought your station was military. Both sides made the same mistake. Chen stood up abruptly. You don't understand. I've studied your people. I know what you're capable of. And I've studied you through our bond. Marcus, do you know what you've become? Through their connection, she showed him more memories. She showed him the times he had watched alien prisoners die during interrogation without feeling anything. She showed him the moment he had decided that alien lives were worth less than human lives. She showed him the plans he had made for species integration. Look at yourself, she said. Really look. What do you see? For the first time since his family's death, Chen saw himself clearly. He saw a man who could plan the deaths of billions without feeling guilt. He saw someone who could torture prisoners for information and sleep peacefully afterward. He saw someone who had become exactly what he claimed to be fighting against. No, he whispered. I'm protecting humanity. By becoming the thing that humanity needs protection from. Chen's mental shields were cracking. Through their bond, Zarathul felt decades of suppressed grief and horror flooding through him. The gentle man he had been was not completely gone. It was buried under layers of controlled rage and calculated cruelty. I love my family, he said, his voice breaking. I know, And they loved you. Do you think they would recognize the man you've become? Through their connection, she showed him his own memories of his children. Emma laughing as he pushed her on a swing. David taking his first steps toward his father's outstretched arms. Both children had trusted him completely, had seen him as the kindest, safest person in their world. What would Emma think of your species integration plans? Zarathul asked softly. What would David say about your decision that alien children don't deserve to live freely? Chen collapsed into a chair, his face in his hands. They're dead because I couldn't protect them. And now other children will die because you've become someone who doesn't want to protect them. I never meant... Chen's voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted to make sure no human family would suffer like mine did, by making every alien family suffer instead. Through their bond, Chen felt Zarathul's own memories. She showed him Valtharian children playing in crystal gardens, learning songs about peace between species. She showed him parents holding their babies, feeling the same love for them that he had felt for Emma and David. We're not that different, she said. We all love our children. We all want them to be safe and happy. But if I don't control you, if I don't prepare for war, humans will be hurt again. Marcus, look at what preparing for war has done to you. You've become the very thing that creates wars. For the first time in years, Chen really looked at himself through someone else's eyes. He saw what the Kethtar saw when they called him Deathbringer. He saw what the Zulnari saw when they refused to speak his name. He saw what Zarathul had seen when she first looked at him. He had become a monster. Worse, he had become a monster who thought he was a hero. What have I done? He whispered. You've forgotten who you used to be, Zarathul said. But it's not too late to remember. Chen looked up at her with eyes full of tears. For the first time since their wedding, she could sense real emotions from him. Pain, horror, regret, and underneath it all, a tiny spark of the gentle man he had once been. How do I come back from this? How do I undo what I've become? By choosing to be better. By remembering that protecting humanity doesn't mean destroying everyone else. My plans, the things I've set in motion, can be stopped. If you choose to stop them. Chen was quiet for a long time. Through their bond, Zarathul felt him struggling with the truth about himself. Part of him wanted to go back to the cold certainty of his previous plans. It was easier to see aliens as enemies than to see them as people he had wronged. But another part of him, the part that remembered Emma's laughter and David's first steps, was horrified by what he had become. If I change course now, he said finally, if I abandon my plans, how do I know humanity will be safe? The same way every parent knows their children will be safe, Zarathul said. You teach them to be strong and you trust them to make good choices. And if other aliens threaten us, then you defend yourselves, but you don't become the threat that others need defending from. Chen sat in silence for a long time, feeling the weight of his choices. He had thought he was saving humanity. Instead, he had made humanity into something that the galaxy would eventually unite to destroy. Help me, he whispered finally. Help me find a way back. Zarathul took his hands in hers. That's why I married you, Marcus. Not for peace between our governments, but to save the man you used. 3 months after the wedding, Marcus Chen stood in the same crystal hall where he had first met his wife. But everything had changed. The man who had arrived as Admiral Chen, the galaxy's most feared human, was gone. In his place stood someone trying to remember how to be Marcus the scientist, Marcus the husband, Marcus the father. It had not been easy. The first few weeks after Zarathul showed him the truth about himself had been the hardest of his life. Worse than losing his family, worse than the years of war, because this time he was mourning the loss of something he had chosen to become. Through their mental bond, Zarathul had helped him piece together what he had lost. She showed him memories of who he used to be, reflected through her empathic gift. Slowly, painfully, Marcus began to feel emotions he had locked away for years. Guilt about the prisoners he had interrogated, horror at the civilians who had died because of his strategies, shame at the plans he had made for controlling alien species, and underneath it all, grief for the gentle man he had destroyed in his quest for revenge. But Zarathul did not just show him his failures. She also showed him his strengths, the brilliant mind that had once studied alien life with wonder and respect, the creativity that had solved scientific problems through understanding rather than force, the compassion that had made him a good father and husband. "These things are still part of you," she told him during one of their late-night conversations. "They're just buried under years of pain and anger. But how do I undo what I've done? How do I stop the machine I've built?" That was the real problem. Admiral Chen's influence reached throughout the human military. His strategies were being taught at academies. His psychological warfare techniques were being used against other species. His vision of human dominance was spreading like a disease through human space. Marcus spent days going through his own files, horrified by what he found. Plans for 30 different alien species, detailed studies of their psychological weaknesses, strategies for conquering worlds without firing a shot. All of it written in his own hand, approved by his own signature. "I need to contact Earth," he told Zarathul one morning. "I need to speak with the human government." "Will they listen to you?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "They'll listen to Admiral Chen. They think he's their greatest hero, but you're not Admiral Chen anymore." "No, but I have to use his reputation to undo his damage." The communication with Earth took several days to arrange. When the holographic image of President Williams appeared in their private chambers, Marcus felt the weight of what he had to do. "Admiral Chen," the president said with a warm smile, "congratulations on your marriage. I trust the mission is going well." "It's going better than expected," Marcus said carefully. "I've learned things about the Valtharians that change everything." "Excellent. What weaknesses have you discovered?" Marcus took a deep breath. "I've discovered that they're not our enemies." The president's smile faded. "Explain." "Sir, I've been living among them for months. I've studied their culture, their psychology, their way of thinking. They're not planning to destroy humanity. They never were. Chen, are you feeling all right? Your report specifically stated that all alien species represent long-term threats to human survival." "My reports were wrong." The words felt strange in Marcus's mouth, but also liberating. "I was wrong. About everything." Through the communication link, Marcus could see other officials gathering around President Williams. Military leaders, intelligence directors, politicians who had built their careers on the threat of alien invasion. "Admiral," said General Morrison, Chen's old mentor. "What exactly are you saying?" Marcus looked at Zarathul, who was sitting quietly beside him. Through their bond, he felt her emotional support, her faith that he could find the right words. "I'm saying that the war machine we've built is based on false assumptions. We've been preparing to fight enemies that don't exist. The Valtharians killed your family," President Williams said sharply. "Have you forgotten that?" "I'll never forget that. But I've learned something important about why it happened. It was a mistake, not malice. Young Valtharians who thought they were defending their own families, just like young humans who have bombed alien civilian targets thinking they were military bases." "So you're abandoning your mission?" "I'm completing it in a way I never expected." Marcus stood up, feeling more certain than he had in years. "You sent me here to learn how to defeat the Valtharians. I've learned something better. I've learned how to make them our allies." "Allies?" General Morrison's voice was full of disbelief. "Chen, these aliens can read our minds." "They're a security threat to every human in the galaxy." "No, sir. They're an opportunity. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together instead of against each other. Imagine the scientific advances, the exploration possibilities, the problems we could solve." For an hour, Marcus explained what he had learned. He told them about Valtharian empathy, their natural desire for harmony between species. He described their technology, their art, their philosophy of mutual understanding. But he could see that his words were falling on deaf ears. The humans on Earth had invested too much in the idea of alien threats. Their entire economy, their political system, their sense of purpose was built around preparing for interstellar war. "Admiral Chen," President Williams said finally, "you're clearly suffering from some form of psychological manipulation. The aliens have somehow compromised your judgment." "No, sir. For the first time in years, my judgment is clear. Return to Earth immediately for psychological evaluation and treatment." "I won't do that." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. Marcus knew he was ending his military career, probably facing charges of treason, but he also knew he was doing the right thing. "Sir," he said, "I'm resigning my commission, effective immediately." "Chen, you can't just quit in the middle of a mission." "Watch me." Marcus reached forward and ended the communication link. In the sudden quiet of their chambers, he turned to look at Zarathul. "Well," he said, "I guess I'm unemployed." "No." she said, smiling. You're free. But freedom came with a price. Over the next few days, Marcus received messages from Earth. Some were angry, calling him a traitor. Others were confused, asking what had happened to their greatest hero. A few were supportive, from humans who had always questioned the wisdom of preparing for galactic war. The most important message came from his old research team. Dr. Sarah Kim, who had worked with him before the war, sent a private communication. Marcus, her recorded message said, I don't know what's happening to you, but I want you to know that some of us never believed the Admiral Chen we saw was the real you. The Marcus we knew was a man who believed in building bridges, not walls. If you're finding your way back to that person, we're ready to help. That message gave Marcus hope. Not all humans had embraced his philosophy of alien domination. There were still people who remembered the dream of peaceful contact between species. Working with Zarathul, Marcus began to develop a new plan. Not for conquering alien species, but for building genuine relationships with them. He used his knowledge of military psychology to design strategies for peace instead of war. The first step was to contact the species he had wronged. He sent messages to the Kethtar, the Zolnari, and others. In each message, he admitted his mistakes and asked for the chance to make amends. Some species refused to respond. Others sent angry replies, but a few were willing to listen. The Zolnari were the first to agree to a meeting. Marcus traveled to their world, accompanied by Zarathul and a small diplomatic team. When he met with their leadership council, he did something no human military leader had ever done. He apologized. I was wrong about your people, he said, speaking in their flowing, plant-like language. I caused suffering based on fear and ignorance. I want to spend the rest of my life making up for that. The Zolnari Council was suspicious at first. They tested him with questions about his true intentions, but gradually they began to believe that he had genuinely changed. What do you want from us? Asked Elder Bloom in Starlight. Nothing, Marcus said. I want to give you something. I want to share human knowledge that could help your people, with no conditions attached. He offered them human medical technology that could help treat plant diseases. He shared agricultural techniques that could improve their food production. He gave them star charts of safe travel routes through human space. Why would you do this? Elder Bloom in Starlight asked. Because it's what my daughter would have wanted me to do, Marcus said simply. She used to ask me to tell her stories about friendly aliens. I want to help make those stories come true. Word of Marcus's transformation spread throughout the galaxy. Some species remained suspicious. Others were cautiously hopeful. But gradually, a new kind of relationship began to develop between humans and aliens. It was slow work. Trust that had been broken over decades of war could not be rebuilt in months. But Marcus and Zarathul kept working, one conversation at a time, one small act of kindness at a time. 2 years later, Marcus stood in the same crystal hall where his journey had begun. But this time he was not there as a conqueror or a destroyer. He was there as a teacher.